He took out his sword and, with a swift motion, rushed towards Theodore. He jumped up and exclaimed, "Die!" However, with one slash, he lost his arm and his life was extinguished. The thugs were terrified, and one of them revealed that he had heard if he took the princess's life, he would be rewarded with money. That was why he had attempted to commit the act. Theodore raised his sword above his head and declared, "Be silent. He will pay for his foolishness with his life." He then ordered his men to dispose of the body, referring to the thugs as mere dogs who were paid for their services. He inquired about Princess Lisa's well-being and was informed that she was resting and that security was perfect. Theodore sheathed his sword and instructed them not to let Princess Lisa find out about what had happened that night. He added that she should not be disturbed, and he considered it a frightening thought if this person was truly an enemy. He reflected on how Princess Lisa, who was trying to correct the empire's injustices, was fighting alone in such a place. He remembered her sweet expression from when she was a child and how she had made him blush and softened his demeanor. He acknowledged that he was not the same person he had been back then and believed that he was now simply a man who deserved to fall into hell. The next day, Lisa was in a carriage. To corner the Marquis, they needed the victim's testimony. She had cancelled any other appointments and decided to take action herself. She approached a lady in her home and asked if Miss Daisy Mason was present. The lady, with tired eyes, revealed that she was Daisy. Lisa smiled and introduced herself as an envoy of the imperial family. She asked if Daisy could tell her what had happened to her. Inside Daisy's home, Daisy revealed that she was the second daughter of Baron Mason and had been treated poorly even at home. However, her singing talent had been recognized, and she was offered a debut at the opera house. Lisa had heard that Daisy had a wonderful singing voice and was even called the imperial capital's songstress. However, the performance was suddenly cancelled. Daisy explained that a man had appeared and offered to be her sponsor, introducing himself as Marquis Damien Constable. Despite feeling looked down upon and considered incompetent, she was surprised that someone with special abilities like him would offer to help her. She was genuinely grateful, but upon entering his mansion, he attacked her. She had never expected him to be so violent. He kept hitting her until she could no longer react, and in the end, he scarred her for life, rendering her unable to perform. Lisa looked at Daisy in horror and exclaimed that it was terrible. However, it was not over. Daisy's family was afraid of the Marquis and pushed her into such a place. No matter how many incompetent daughters were sacrificed, the world paid no attention to them. Daisy pleaded with Lisa, saying that she would do anything, at any price, just to ensure that innocent women were taken care of. Lisa wondered if it was worth having merely a special ability, and she believed such cruelty could not be forgiven. She stood up, stating that she understood Daisy's feelings and would definitely punish the Marquis. She assured her that it would be done and asked if Daisy knew what kind of special powers Marquis Damien had. Daisy replied that she was so scared that she quickly ran into a room, but the Marquis suddenly appeared. She could not believe her eyes. The only way in or out was through one door, which was blocked. He told Daisy not to make him use his special powers for something like this, and his voice was filled with anger. It was a mysterious special power that he considered valuable. Perhaps it was the true nature of the Marquis's power. At that moment, Lisa had an idea and realized his weakness. She left Daisy's residence, thinking about the Marquis's ability. He possessed a mobility power that allowed him to enter and exit any place he wanted without being blocked by obstacles. It was a terrifyingly troublesome power, but its use had significant limitations. With this knowledge, they should be able to deal with his special powers. She then saw someone stopping the carriage, so she ordered the carriage staff to stop. Theodore entered and heard that Lisa had met with the victim. She inquired about Theodore's investigation, and Theodore revealed that he was searching for evidence that Marquis Damien was committing horrific crimes under Prince Felix's orders. It seemed that everything connected to him had been erased, so he questioned what they should do. Lisa thought for a moment and realized that without evidence, even if she caused a fuss now, it would be hushed up. However, she knew that the more cowardly a person was, the more likely they were to keep evidence on hand. She ordered Theodore to sneak into the mansion and capture the evidence. Theodore expressed concern, stating that it would certainly surprise her but would be difficult. What could anyone expect from an art collector? The security at the Marquis's mansion was tight, and it was challenging to bypass it. The question was how to sneak into the mansion. Suddenly, Lisa noticed a boy carrying a gift and had an idea. If it was hard to sneak in, the Marquis himself will welcome them in. In the next scene, a winged lion, majestic and seemingly staring off into the distance, was shown. The man commented that it was definitely the highlight of the exhibition. Suddenly, he noticed Princess Lisa with some men behind her and inquired why she was there. She explained that she had been asked by her superiors to do some work, so she would check the listing for him and he could leave. He quickly passed her the listing and said he understood. At that moment, she ordered the men to get to work. They commented that it was an incredible job to drill a hole in the national treasure and create a structure where people could hide. In this country, the winged lion was considered a deity, reserved for special abilities or nobles seeking privileges. Nobles often pray to the winged lion and cling to it, but Lisa was different. She would never pray to it. She intended to crush those who imposed inequality and harmed innocent people. On the day of the auction, nobles praised Princess Felix and Princess Louisa, commenting on their beauty. Felix exclaimed that being a member of the royal family was exhausting. Louise cheerfully remarked that, if that were the case, she saw he was having lots of fun. Felix wondered about the point of being so friendly toward these people. He inquired about Lisa's whereabouts and what she was doing. At that moment, Lisa and Theodore arrived, stunning and attracting the attention of everyone. The men and women began to blush, surprised to see Princess Lisa and Theodore. Meanwhile, Felix and Louisa looked on with jealousy. As they walked, Lisa asked Theodore if it was all right for him to enter the Marquis's mansion, suggesting that he did not need to go. He replied that he was accustomed to danger and she would be pleased if she could achieve revenge on Felix and Louisa. Justice was merely a means to that end. It was not painful, and she was not confused because she was focused on revenge. She smiled and told him that she was relying on him. Suddenly, Marquis Damien appeared with two girls on his arm, seemingly uncomfortable. He glanced at Lisa, pushed the girls away, and approached her, bowing. His eyes were unsettling. After that, he held the two girls and walked away. Later, the auction began, and a beautiful painting was sold to a wealthy man in a white coat, and a stunning necklace was sold to an elegant older woman. The highest price was paid for the Twilight statue, bought by Marquis Damien Constable. For now, everything was proceeding as planned. Theodore took this opportunity to enter his designated position, marking the beginning of the battle. Louisa commented that she found the auction very exciting. She asked Lisa how it was for her. Lisa gave an awkward smile and replied that she had a lot of fun. Suddenly, Marquis Damien appeared. He referred to them as the children of the sun. Felix smirked, stating that the Marquis and him were close. Felix informed Marquis that there was no need to be formal. Marquis approached Lisa, saying it was the first time he had seen her. He referred to her as the Dark Moon Princess, and expressed surprise at being able to meet her. Seemingly irritated, Lisa asked what he meant by dark moon. He explained that it meant the more beautiful the moon, the more it hides. Princess Lisa was known for rarely attending public events. She informed him that she was interested in the art and had also wanted to meet the Marquis. He seemed surprised that she wanted to meet him. She mentioned that there were rumors around the city claiming he had committed terrible acts. Felix became furious and exclaimed her name, but Marquis Damien told him he did not mind. He nonchalantly told the princess that sometimes women make false claims for money. Those not blessed with special abilities and without a man they cannot do anything. It seemed that the more powerless a person was, the more likely they were to act cowardly. To reduce the number of such people, he had recently focused on supporting activities for women. She smiled, commenting that it was admirable. Marquis then turned his attention to Felix and inquired about a certain matter. Lisa noticed that Marquis did not feel guilty and knew that she would definitely get her revenge. Theodore entered a room, and as planned, Only the base had been replaced with a fake. He touched it and it opened. Suddenly, he heard a sound and hid behind an art piece. It was the Marquis. Marquis Damien remarked that it was beautiful and questioned whether the god who gave special abilities were truly heroic. He slowly approaches Theodore's position. As he gets closer, Theodore prepares to unsheath his sword. However, this is interrupted by Lisa calling for the Marquis. She smiles and informs him that she heard he was headed there and suggests they talk a little more if he has the opportunity. However, the Marquis's attention is preoccupied as he tries to look back at the vase. At that moment, Lisa places her hand on his cheek and tells him that she would like to hear more about the support activities he mentioned earlier. Marquis, obviously intrigued, quickly agrees. He orders his men to take the statue back to his mansion. As they walk together, Lisa smiles. Noticing this, the Marquis inquires if something happened. She tells him no, it's just that the Marquis is a very kind person and helps a lot of people. Later, the men bring the statue into the mansion. They carefully move the statue, and everything seems to go well. Outside the mansion at night, Lisa confirms that the statue has been safely transported. At the same time, the knights discuss that if they failed to gather evidence, it would be a big problem. They have no choice but to trust the commander of the night. She has shared all the information she could, and now it is up to Theodore. Theodore enters the Marquis's private room and touches a table that leads to a secret compartment. As he descends the stairs and enters the room, he sees torn dresses with blood stains and pictures of women screaming in pain. The Marquis is clearly a man of bad taste. Suddenly, Theodore notices Prince Felix's name along with assassination instructions addressed to the Marquis. With this, they have evidence to denounce not only the Marquis but also Prince Felix. Suddenly, Theodore dodges a shot aimed at him. The Marquis says that it's unfortunate when young people with bright futures turn to evil. Theodore attempts to pick up the letter that had fallen from his hands, but the Marquis shoots at him, stopping him from retrieving it. The Marquis makes a grim expression and states that the conversation is not over yet. He questions whom Theodore is following. Theodore prepares to unsheath his sword and tells him that he will be the one to judge his evil deeds. The Marquis tells him that it's rude, but it is a noble mission. People with special abilities should always be respected and given preferential treatment. However, he only meets worthless, incompetent people and women who come forward to find fault with them. He tells Theodore not to get the wrong idea about nobles crushing them, including their dignity. When he hears their screams, he feels the joy of doing a noble duty. At this point, Theodore becomes furious and rushes at the Marquis. The Marquis, feeling that Theodore isn't a threat, attacks him. Theodore's face is bruised, causing streams of blood to run down. Theodore jumps into the air, preparing to slash at the Marquis. However, the Marquis smartly retreats into the wall, causing Theodore to strike the wall instead. This ability is incredibly frustrating. Inside the wall, Marquis wonders how powerful Theodore really is, but concludes he is just an incompetent opponent. Marquis decides to appear from behind Theodore. However, Theodore senses him immediately, grabs the Marquis's hand, and removes the gun from it. To Marquis's shock, he is punched in the face and knocked out. As he lies on the ground, he cannot believe the force behind the punch. Had he been hit directly, he would have been severely injured. But how did Theodore know his location? Earlier, Lisa had stated that even if he could move through objects, he would appear at a moment's notice, but Marquis, being a coward, would always attack from a blind spot, so there was no need to be afraid. Theodore smiles, thinking it happened just as Princess Lisa said it would. Marquis slowly backs away, exclaiming that Theodore is a monster. Theodore grabs Marquis's shirt, stating that he's used to that term, and then knocks out the Marquis, almost disfiguring his face in the process. Theodore believes the guards will soon come rushing in after hearing the gunfire. He walks over to retrieve the letter, but at that moment, the Marquis wakes up and grabs it. Suddenly, Marquis fades into the wall, but not before claiming that an incompetent person like him could never catch him. As he disappears into the wall, the Marquis escapes. Moments later, he meets up with Princess Lisa and the others, informing them that the Marquis has escaped. One of the knights states that without evidence, they are to blame. Lisa tells them it's not over yet. They must chase after the Marquis and catch him. A knight voices concern, stating that Marquis has special abilities, so what is her solution? Meanwhile, the Marquis is making his escape with the letter. He knows that as long as he has this evidence, he can fabricate any story he wants and avoid justice. But if he rushes to His Highness's territory, they won't be able to lay a hand on him. He thinks the price they will pay for showing their face will be steep. Suddenly, a man exclaims that the Marquis is over here. The Marquis is taken aback. He enters the wall, thinking that the only thing he has to worry about is the supernatural assassin. But with his powers, he is sure he can easily evade these fools. However, another person exclaims that he is over here. Marquis begins to panic as he runs. No matter where he goes inside the walls, they keep finding him. He wonders why he can't escape. As he runs, a knight blows a whistle, alerting the others to their location. The Marquis wonders what's happening. At that moment, Princess Lisa informs them that the Marquis is taking the Western Alley and trying to make his way toward Felix's territory. Unfortunately for the Marquis, the layout of this area was all planned by Princess Lisa, as it was forced upon her by her brother. For many nights, they held meetings reflecting the voices of government officials and residents. Even with her eyes closed, she knows where everything is. A knight wonders how Princess Lisa is considered incompetent when her talent exceeds most individuals with abilities. Due to this, and because this place was built by those despised by nobles, there is nowhere for him to escape. Marquis starts to panic, feeling out of breath and dizzy. Everything feels strange to him, indicating that he has reached the limits of his powers. At that moment, he is caught by Theodore and another knight. The Marquis quickly realizes the situation and begins begging for his life. He tells Theodore that he will give him the evidence and cooperate as much as needed. He rummages through his pocket, stating that he will hand over the letter now. However, he pulls out a knife, planning to attack Theodore, which is a very foolish move given that Theodore is a knight. Theodore grabs his arm and immediately knocks him to the floor. Marquis tries to reach for the knife, but Theodore steps on his arm. Marquis screams in pain, and the knights cover their ears. Theodore orders his knights to take him away. In a desperate attempt to escape, the Marquis tells Theodore that Prince Felix won't stay quiet. His master seems to have considerable special powers, but he is no match for Prince Felix. Theodore questions why he thinks their master has special powers. Marquis responds that it's logical. He sees Theodore's master's ability to exploit weaknesses as a sign of extreme power and intelligence. A knight comments that he doesn't understand anything, leaving the Marquis confused. However, as their intelligent and powerful leader approaches, the Marquis is in total shock to discover that it is Lisa. She smirks and says that she is very pleased that they were able to meet again. Marquis Constable is furious. Anyone would have been better than an incompetent woman. She tells him that every time he uses his special ability it wears out quickly and it cannot be used repeatedly. That's the weakness of his special ability. He must be cautious in using the power. Even after he escaped, he should have stayed hidden inside the wall, but he didn't, since using his ability is like diving through water. If a person understands that his special ability is not a big deal, Marquis Constable is enraged and grits his teeth. He then questions if she thinks that Prince Felix will leave it like this, as he believed the incompetent people can get away with defying them. All of them will die with His Highness's special power. She approaches him. For the sake of this man's desire, she wonders how many women shed tears. She places her hand on his cheek. She tells him that he should not forget that now his life is in her hands. He is mortified. She further explains that with this evidence, no matter how great her brother is, no one will be able to escape unscathed. Her brother and him will both be put through hell from now on. No matter what means they use, she will be sure to make it happen. A shiver goes down the Marquis' spine as he realizes that she is different from the person he met at the auction house. This feeling of intimidation, it's like facing His Majesty the Emperor.